So
there we go. All right. Okay. I think if we kick off, who wants to give an update on the multi-district PEPs, Simon?
Sorry, me.
Right,
Needs to be a DGE.
Simon, meet the bus. Yes.
Simon, you're the only Steve here tonight.
Simon, yeah, well, yes, thank you. Yes, yeah. Thanks for that, Pete. We met for the final time last evening with Dennis, Chris, and the others. The agenda or the format is I hope finally confirmed, because it's been confirmed about 8 times now. Been tweaked a little bit, I think, to meet with the speaker's demands. We've done a run through. The 4 DGEs have written their combined opening gambit, and we've yet to write our closing one. But I think we should wait until we see how it goes, to be honest.
On that point, Simon, I had a phone call with Wendy Ford tonight. Was early this afternoon, and what she suggests is that we try and agree who's going to talk about what. And then, because I said I was going to wait till Sunday morning to write it before the closing session on Sunday, but she said it might be worth having a look at the Scotland one, which the video for will be out next week, and see what they've done, and have a look at the Jennifer Jones slot, because they reckon she's probably going to say much the same thing with ours. And then we can probably construct a framework, which we then fill in the detail a little later.
Yeah, it can take many forms, though, Steve. I think, yeah. And I say that because I've been finishing off my DG briefing that I will deliver twice over the coming days, and when I piece it together and you read it as one, it really talks about change, and even more change. If you look at the key parts of the presentation, be it McQueen, be it Gump, and even Jones for that matter, that was the key message, wasn't it? It was change. It is a bit frightening trying to sort of push that message really hard. I compared it today about trying to turn a pride of lions into vegetarians, because I think that's what it's going to feel like, to some extent. To be fair, I mean, you're joking apart, but I mean, that's where it should be. I mean, that's where the message should be, to my mind.
Oh, we've already tried it and it failed, obviously, with you, Simon. If you got to do more change, so we've been going in for change all last year and the year before. Yeah.
Well, we haven't done it to the extent that we're trying to do it now.
I'm more concerned about clubs who are only just actually getting back to establishing a routine within their clubs, establishing their projects, and then they're getting this change thrust upon them. I just wonder whether at the moment it's a step, not too far, but it's a big step for them to take.
I don't disagree, Robin. I really don't disagree. It's it's whether you accept it's sort of death by 1,000 cuts, or whether you accelerate the demise. And in reality, I mean, to some extent, due to the way we've operated for the last 10, 20 years, I mean, that's basically where we are. And it's not enviable. I do feel. I mean, we in our district, 1220, like the other guys, I've got no doubt, have lost clubs this year, and we'll we'll continue to lose more. And it's how hard you can push the message without disenfranchising everybody, frankly.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Can I just come in there? Something somebody said a while ago, do we have to change, or do we just bring in new as well? So that, and one thing that stuck with me from Warwick was it's easier to give birth than to raise the dead. And that's
Yeah.
really resonated with me. And just after that, we had a strategic planning meeting, and somebody who actually happened to be the club's membership lead, and he said, well, I think we should prepare for decline.
Yeah, well,
And I just thought, if the membership man's talking like that, it's worrying.
Well, isn't there an element of both, really, isn't there? I mean, there is going to be a bit of a decline, certainly with the aged clubs, and I think that the likelihood of some of them surviving because of their age is very remote. Getting people to join those clubs is extremely difficult. You might get the odd one or two now and again, but beyond that, it's a continual decline, as we said. But it's really down to new clubs.
Yeah.
Talk about a new generation of Rotary.
When I say change, Steve, Pauline, I don't mean change in the clubs that are there, most of them, because the past changing.
Yeah, exactly.
It is change to bring in new blood. It's bringing new clubs, and you know, there's a key focus on new clubs being formed. And I used the same, the same sort of quote, Pauline, to a few people since. So I'm not going to spend hours and hours trying to change a club that's got a dozen people 70 to 90 years old.
And the rest.
I mean, they've done the time, they've done the good work, and they can only do what they can do.
But
that isn't the change I'm talking about.
We've got to encourage those clubs to grow, to bring in new members. We have got to be positive.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's no good sort of sitting here saying, oh, we're going to lose clubs and we can't do this and we can't do that. We can.
Yeah,
our district, and I'm talking purely personally about our district. We have gained members. We've gained clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Getting clubs. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, bringing members into clubs that are established and active and thriving is good. But if you get I'm not an ageist by any means, absolutely not. But certain clubs in our districts are effectively dining clubs, and don't disrespect that. I mean, they've done the work and they've enjoyed it, and they're just dining now. You can't put a lot of time into those clubs. Just let them be what they want to be, and they will demise, but of their own choice.
I tell you what's really nice though, Simon. It's when those clubs that you've just described understand the situation they're in, but still want to leave a legacy, and so work hard to create a younger, newer club underneath them.
That would be excellent.
Be associated with them, and when that happens, it's really heartwarming.
Yes, it is.
I haven't seen that happen, but I would love to. I mean, I've
got one in my area that's doing exactly that, or trying to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, because they are in the 70 to 90 age bracket, they're finding it a little bit more difficult than they thought they would do when they started out. But they're still determined.
But they've got the right idea. It's the phoenix from the ashes.
Yeah.
There's no point keeping that club going because it's done its time.
Yeah.
To form a new one is the key way of sort of moving forward, and I think most people agree on that point.
Yeah.
But you still have to respect those that have done the hard work and over the years.
I think sometimes if you ask somebody if they like change and they go, we don't mind. Do you think there's anybody here who doesn't like change? And they go, yeah, there's loads. It's not me, but lots of people don't like change. And I think the worry is that we're changing too fast for some people, not fast enough for others. And we looked at our age demographics, and basically by the end of June, we are going to be 50% over the age of 80. Now that's a lot. That's a lot of members. Okay, there's 7 of us, but there's only 5 women, and I'm the oldest one, which is a bit of a worry.
I'm sorry,
we've got to find other ways.
This gender argument just turns me off totally. We're Rotarians, whether we're men or women.
But the problem is, these aged ones are still women in our club.
No.
just
Oh yeah,
scary.
there's still some of that, but I think in
No.
those cases you just have to ignore them.
It all the
And,
time.
yeah.
And we just ride it. But so we've got to find another way of sort of bringing clubs in to bridge that gap. You know, I was thinking today, there's a brand new estate gone up, 6,000 houses. I don't mind going out, doing a leaflet drop, trying to start a family club, trying to start a young people's club. I don't mind. But am I the right person to go out when I'm one of the older ones? But then the guy who's the membership one is younger than me, and he wants to shuffle off the coil.
Well, get the cluster guys involved. You know, it's a cluster. There's four districts here.
Yeah, 4 districts. I think
going into a housing estate is like surely is like bobbing apples. You know, there's 200-300 houses at a time.
6,000 on this one.
Oh well, that's a big old club then.
And then there's another one going up with 4,000.
Anyhow, Steve,
Rugby's the biggest growing town in the Midlands.
Yeah.
Double the average.
But with respect, leaflet drops have only limited value.
Oh,
Let's not forget Shaker's words. Each one brings one. That I think is the key to where we should be going. We should be engaging on a one-to-one basis. It's harder and slower work, but it does work. Each one brings one.
We tried that. Remember, Amel? And how many did we get? 6, and I brought all 6.
All right.
The other 50 didn't want to know.
One of the things you've got with the as we say, the people in their 80s and shall we say 90s to bring one, they're only going to bring one that's at the same age, because that's what it is what we need them to do is to somehow find it through their family or something of people much younger, because once you've left work, you lose quite a lot of the people that you've got in your contacts. But that doesn't stop it going like that. But I think it's like Pauline was saying, and David is absolutely right. The person, if you bring somebody into the club as a personal contact, because I don't know how all got into clubs, but it was because the president of the club sort of sent me a card, and I went to see him. There's a history behind this card, and they went to see him, and then he says, "Do you want to come along? I'll take you." And I went with him. You know, it was like that, and you go in with him, and so it's and then the rest was history, sort of thing, because you realised you actually knew people who were there as well.
Yeah, I think we need.
And I think John was the same. Yes.
So Steve, thank you. That was you invited me to talk about it, and I did.
Can I say one point, that it is also retention which is important. If you see the percentage of people joining in and how much they live in the 1 or 2 years, so it should also be each one retain one. Let's not forget that also.
I agree on that point totally.
And I do agree with you, Mukunda, because I think one of the key things that helps keep people in clubs is to make the clubs more comfortable for them to be in, give them a sense of belonging, because there's lots, there's many clubs out there, and we probably all know which ones they are, that there's a bit of acrimony, there's a little niggles in the club, and doesn't create a nice atmosphere. So that's why people are leaving as well. So I think we need to look at that as well. So is everybody potentially in agreement that perhaps we need to get our membership leads together to start talking about how each of us is actually working on the membership issue, what things have worked, perhaps what things haven't worked, and what the spend is really, because obviously there's some cost with some of these things going forward, and it might be useful to share ideas. And
I mean, that's the key priority, Steve, going forward. So it makes the most sense to, if we can harmonise that, and any of us get benefit out of what the others are doing, it's got to be worth doing.
Yeah,
I would agree with that, Steve, to a point that that the brief should be that we ask those membership leads to look at the other club models as well, and maybe as a primary focus. You know, we've got our brief that we've got two cause-based clubs per district, and that's come from Jennifer. Whether that be right or wrong doesn't really matter. But there are different club models or different group models. I hate the word club. Group models that maybe are more beneficial than the traditional, sort of model right now.
And I think they want to look across the piece as well, Simon, not just at Rotary clubs, but at Rotaract and the feed-in sort of thing as well. So we've got the whole start to finish journey.
And let's not lose sight. I mean, there are a lot of groups in our communities that are sorry, Hull City just scored, that are dying off. Be it Lions, be it Round Table, be it whoever it is, and there are people out there that still want to give to the communities that don't have an outlet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Steve, can I come in here?
Yeah, go on.
Let us also look at those clubs in different districts who have been extremely successful in getting members. And we have an excellent example in City of Wolverhampton. They have done extremely well. Robin is here and she can endorse that. And why not in one of these meetings get them, past District Governor Richard Green is the president at the moment, and they have done really marvels. So why not we bring them, people like that, and tell this cluster what have they done and whether we can share that idea to get more members.
Yes, and if we got clubs like that that do seem to be doing really well, this is where they need to engage with the membership leads together, I think, and then share the ideas and what's and who's been doing what and how successful it's been, and maybe the other districts can pick up on that and start sharing that with clubs in their areas, in their districts, and with a bit of luck, we will all be have people queuing out the door to join Rotary. You never know.
That's
Can but hope.
that's a key point there, isn't it?
I'm new to the party tonight. I'm Chris Knight from District 1070, who'll be DG in the year 24-25, but from a very successful club with recruitment. Our club, we recruit in a totally different way, which I don't want to go into tonight. But in the last 10 years, we've increased by 15 members and also retained them. And we take a totally different approach to membership, and we can normally recruit 3 or 4 a year at the moment, and it's very successful. I'd love to share that with you at some point.
Well, I think that you should. I mean, I think that you should, with respect, and please don't. I mean, as far as I'm aware, this meeting doesn't have an agenda as such. And so when you say, "Oh, I don't want to go into the detail now," I mean, why not? Because what I'm experiencing in the meetings that we come to is that some people are saying, well, some people are suggesting we have to manage decline. In our district, we have some clubs that are going to be finishing regretfully at the end of this year. Every meeting you go to, people are talking about growing membership, growing Rotary. Some people, I'm sorry, but some people brag, oh, well, we're doing fine. And other people saying, well, we're not doing fine. Isn't it the purpose of a meeting like this to share the good practice rather than just to sort of say, well, we're doing well, but I don't want to go into that. I mean, please, Chris, do go into it. I'd be delighted if you did.
I'd prefer that we did it with the membership chairs, personally.
Yeah.
Right, fine.
Not that I don't agree that we should share it. I totally do. But I think that we run the risk, if we're not careful, of us doing the job.
Leads work.
So I think we should use the time to know that Chris has some good input and make sure that goes to the membership leads rather than necessarily take that now.
Can I just add to that though, just as the DG for Chris's districts, in our districts, and in fact in GB&I, in the last 10 years, we've lost 1/3 of our membership. And that applies to most clubs in our district, and it covers our GB&I. 1/3 membership lost in 10 years. The club that Chris Knight is in has gained 1/3 of its members. It's plus 1/3 in 10 years. So I think we should make way for Chris with the membership chairs to actually go through what is special, what are they doing, what is it that we should be follow and applying in all our clubs in our districts.
And
I think that's very valid.
Wolverhampton
All I'm saying.
Well, yeah, the thing is, though, and it makes total sense to share these success stories and best practice. It totally does. But I think we also have to accept that the two things. I mean, first of all, every RI president comes in with a great goal. So our current RI president, the goal was to double the Rotary membership. Well, frankly, that's quite clearly failed, hasn't it? So the target is just ridiculous. There's no way it's going to happen. So we should at least be realistic about where.
No, excuse me, it wasn't to double the membership.
Yes, it was. Each one bring one.
To go from 1.2 million to 1.3 million.
Well, okay, but
that was his goal.
The message is each one bring one, and it's
still
what
it meant was bring somebody to the club. Yeah.
So effectively, it still hasn't worked, has it? I mean, we've managed to increase the numbers by changing the way we do our bookkeeping, but effectively the membership has remained static. Now, within that, there will be some clubs who've been incredibly successful, and there'll be some clubs who really are on the path towards going, and that's just the nature of it. I mean, the issue in Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, unfortunately, is that actually all the efforts that we're doing now, and they may well bear fruit, but actually they should have started 10 or 15 years ago.
Thank you, Steve. Absolutely.
So we have to be realistic that it will go down, and it will continue to go down before it goes up, because there won't be enough of Chris's clubs to cover the clubs that are going to die in the meantime. So, at least if we're honest and realistic about that, we can move forward together sensibly, because there's really no point in us trying to make some of these clubs perform. And the second thing is that, if you take something like Wolverhampton, very successful, does them very, very well. It's a city, it's a relatively new city, so it's quite vibrant, which helps, I think. But the main reason that it's worked is because they've gone out and they've spoken to people and they've invited people to join. And I can't remember who else said it, but I think it was you, David. That the best way to get members is for people to ask people. But actually, let's also be clear on that. You can ask 50 people and get no response. The following week, you could ask another 50 people and get 50 people who suddenly invite 50 more people. There's an element of randomness to this. And sometimes we look at a success story and we go, oh, what did they do? We must copy it. And very often, some clubs are already doing that. It's just that it's kind of like tossing a coin. You could toss it 5 times in a row and get heads, but you won't get 5 heads again. For what? You could be sitting there trying to do that again for a week, 2 weeks, and you wouldn't get it. So
I don't think that it's necessarily about directly duplicating something, Steve, with respect. I think it's about hearing what those ideas are and interpreting them for your own area, using a bit of nous and using a bit of imagination and using the knowledge that you have of your own district.
No, and I think that's
what is the point?
It's
what is the point of this if it is not to share good practice?
No. So the sharing is fine. I think we have to be very careful that we don't. That people understand that these are things that could try, but they might not work, because it can be quite, what's the word? It can be quite demoralizing if a club is told, do this and you will get new members, if they do it and don't get new members. So,
nothing is a silver bullet. I don't think anybody's saying that.
Well, I think some of our messaging is like that, isn't it? Actually, from the top, in fact, I think, we paint it as being incredibly easy, and actually it's not incredibly easy. There's a whole series of challenges. So I think you're absolutely right. We should share good practice, but I think we should try to maintain, one of the things I've always said to people when they do, they'll say, oh, we spoke to somebody at, I don't know, a collection. Somebody came along and spoke to us. We've seen them for a couple of years running now, but they still won't join. Well, maybe they won't, but maybe they will in 2 or 3 years' time. Maybe their circumstances will change. So we should never see any outreach and any talking to people as a waste of time, even if it doesn't result in immediate success.
I agree with that. Can I just say, it may help or it may not help. We decided in Melton Mowbray that there was space for another club in the town. That was my initiative, and I personally went out and approached 178 local business people. Within 3 months, we had a new club with 34 members. I approached each one and engaged with each one by one. We got 34 members.
And that's the kind of effort that actually, that's the kind of thing that Wolverhampton have been doing. And this is the point, isn't it? Is that people often play lip service to it. They'll say, oh, well, we have promoted, they've put an advert, they've put a poster up in the library, we manage our local library, so putting a poster up in it is a bit like sort of shouting in the wind, because there's so few people actually, read the notice board anyway, and they're probably not the right demographic. So what you've just said, David, is exactly, I think that a lot of the success stories that we hear will ultimately revolve around people actually getting up and asking people to join.
We've just
I think
done
we should
exactly-
hear them, but that's
we've-
going to be the crux of it. You know,
Just done exactly the same thing in the last few weeks in the east of our districts, in the Lincolnshire Fens, a town called Holbeach. We've got a businessman there who moved back from the States, a Rotarian. He got fire in his belly. He went out, spoke to the local business people. We had an interest meeting with 28 people. We had a second one and we signed up 17 members on the night. We have a new club there.
that's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, and
It's the
yeah, it shows it.
one-to-one engagement, which I think is vital.
We're still waiting for details of how he did that, David, to be fair.
Mm.
Spoke about that last time.
And I'll guarantee that if we do get the membership leads together and they do investigate best practice from each one of the 4 districts, a common theme will come out of this, that the clubs that have done well, the traditional clubs that have done well, have done exactly that. They've put leather on the road. They've gone out and they've put themselves about, and they've made a big effort about it. And it's the same with the new clubs as well. They put leather on the road because that's the only way you can do it. It'd be interesting though to see how successful media campaigns are, how successful advertising is, and how successful things like the Global Hub are, feeding, you know, members into clubs in the district. All those things need to be looked at to see where a focus could be, and there may be other things that that somebody's got that's a little bit unique that we could all benefit from. So I whilst I understand what Richard's saying about let's all hear it and understand it, I agree to some extent with you, Steve, that it'd be better coming through the membership leads because they're the ones that got to drive it at the end of the day.
Yeah, David, I agree with you. And one of the things that Wolverhampton has shared with us is they are very active on social media. So I'm not saying that is the silver bullet, but what I'm trying to say is share those practices and see if it works for you. It may work, it may not work, isn't it?
I mean, Simon said about the brief to give the membership leads, and I think that's a good idea, but for them to actually investigate which practices have worked and equally important, what things have we done that haven't worked and haven't borne through?
Yeah, well, I think to be fair, and you know, I've sat on these for a few months now, and we've all talked about success and we've all talked about challenges. What we haven't done, and to Richard's point, which I fully agree with, and you can shoot me down if you like, but we haven't shared. You know, we haven't actually got to the point where we've explained how we've done something. And we can say put the membership chairs in a room together. You know, it may not be the membership chairs that have been the movers and shakers.
No.
It may be somebody
We've all
else.
got to drive. You know, when you say it's them that are driving it, correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we all got to drive?
We're all driving it. So you know, when we share
what we're
this,
doing,
you know, I mean, you know, David, Steve, I think at the last meeting you had this great campaign, and you had, you know, sort of 3 bus loads lined up. Now, I still don't know how you've done that to any great extent. I know, Steve, you and I have talked, and that's been helpful. And we in 1220 have done or try and do a similar thing. But you know, I think we've got to be a little bit, a bit more open about how we're doing this. You know, 'cause it's not a competition, is it? It's
we're happy to share, and I have been sharing with other districts as well.
I know you are, Steve. I know you are, Steve. Yeah. No, I mean, please don't take that as a slight, but it's not meant that way.
No.
You know, some have tried things and failed, and we should be sharing them because because that clearly hasn't worked. And those that are doing things that are working, you know, share them. It may not work in our areas. I mean, take Wolverhampton and take Epworth, and it's chalk and cheese. You know,
yeah, we're a very rural area. Yeah,
completely different environment, so it may not work in ours. But you know, at least we can identify, you know, what's been happening, you know, what has worked, and then we can sort of figure out ourselves whether it work or not.
Because I think that what will happen is we all got different ways of doing it. Some have been successful, as you already say, Simon.
Yeah,
we bring those successes, and maybe as we said earlier, a few minutes ago, we can then tailor them to our districts. Because as you say, Wolverhampton It's completely different to your area, which
Yeah,
is
it
a
is,
bit more
yeah.
rural.
Exactly.
But you can use it, probably the principle of what they did in
Exactly.
Wolverhampton and
Absolutely.
adjust it slightly.
I think just knowing that there are people who are having success is actually quite useful in its own right, because
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it shows it can be done. Even if you're not successful, you know that you're not wasting your time trying, and I think that's a massive positive as well.
Yes,
And you may have done it by chance. It may have been completely lucky.
Well, I think
It
that's
may have been a whole
you know,
raft of things, but does it matter?
exactly, it doesn't. So, but the fact you know that other people are succeeding means that you know it's worth carrying on trying, don't you?
Yeah,
definitely.
But one of the things that we did that started a lot of the good stuff off that we've done is we did a demographic study to see what the ratio of non-Rotarians to Rotarians were in all the big areas, and that gave us a chance to focus on the places where the ratio wasn't as good. And that's not beyond the wit of man to do. It's fairly simple to do, really. But it gives you a good starter for 10, because it allows you to look at what you've got in your district and say, that's an area that's got a very low percentage of Rotarians to everything else. That's a good place to start, a campaign at.
Which is what we've done, because we had that demographic that was created by Ken McLennan, and looked at populations within the district and in the sort of town areas, and versus the number of Rotarians in those areas, and we found it quite revealing, and which is where we, based on that, we use that as a target base for our social media campaign.
So just to be specific, the average ratio of Rotarians to the general public in 1070 is 1 to 10,000. Is it 1 to 100,000?
Yeah.
1 to 10,000. Do the sums. There's 2,000 Rotarians and the population is 2 million. So what does that make it? 1 to 1,000. Yeah, we found in some cities, in some of the cities, the ratio was 1 to 300. So that focused our attention. But interestingly, I was fascinated over the weekend. We had Holger Knack with us, and he was saying that he's just recently been involved in chartering a club of midwives, an e-club of midwives covering 2 or 3 continents. I think he said there were 53 members joined up with the charter night of midwives. How about that?
Yeah, so that would be a cause-based club then, David.
Yeah,
it sure is cause-based. Blimey, yeah, not half.
Certainly seems to be the way forward.
Yeah, because that where you get the collection of people with the same interest, and you're more likely to grow membership quicker that way. But also, you'll end up retaining people in the clubs that way because they have a shared interest and a shared passion, and that is more likely to gel them together.
It is taking the analogy of giving birth to absurd extents.
The only problem I can foresee in the future with that is that you are limiting yourself in the future because you're all one group. And unless you bring other midwives in behind you. So there's something to be said, because I made contact with Bob clubs just to see how they were working, and their methodology is just how Rotary started. There's one accountant, one doctor, one of this, one of that, and one of the other. Their fees are double what we pay in Rotary. They still have to pay for a meal, but they're all business linked. So you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And it's interesting what David said. Both, I think you said where you've gone out, it was led by businesses meeting up. And for me, I've been retired a number of years, and after a certain time, you lose those connections. So where you're picking up connections with the midwives, do we need more of a cross section? I'm not saying don't, because I know there's been a very successful veterans club, isn't it? I think Tom Gump.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I
think, it's not, a midwife is not a cause club. It is a group of people who are like-minded. A cause club to me is projects, that are bringing like-minded people together.
Yeah.
So it could
Now,
be the doctor, the accountant, the midwife, but you're bringing them all together. So you get a bigger cross-section of your demographic area. Does that make sense? I don't know whether I've explained it very well.
No, that's absolutely right, Pauline. Yeah.
Sorry,
I think both are
can we
correct.
define what a cause-based club is then, Steve?
Well, a cause-based club is something that has a particular focus. So, for example, like the environment, they'll focus on like plastics, clearing plastic pollution, for example. But they won't be a one-trick pony because they'll have other things. That'll be their raison d'etre, but they'll have other things they'll want to do as well because they'll identify things in their communities which they will develop. And I think that's the way it'll work. I mean, in Prague, I saw this club with a banner up that says the Rotary Club of Speed Dating. Now, make of that what you will, but
Let's try that.
But if you've got a club that's interested in sort of postnatal care, then the odds are you're going to get a higher.
I was going to say that one, the speed dating one, is obviously prenatal. That's sort of the fertilization stage.
So we had a somebody pointed out at the weekend that the dating agency were called Screwfix.
We're getting into the realms of something other than Rotary now, aren't we?
Call the Sergeant at Arms, please.
Diversity and equity, gents.
Yeah,
Right,
Simon, Simon,
I actually think
I can give an example. In South Africa, there is a club which is absolutely focused only on environment, and they make it very clear they do not want any other member who is not interested in environment. And they're doing some fantastic work in South Africa on environment. So again, you can have focus-based club, but that's a different matter altogether.
yeah, that's what I say. We've got all these different avenues into Rotary, joining existing clubs. You've got clubs arising out the ashes, Phoenix clubs, cause-based clubs, focus clubs, various other innovative clubs. I mean,
Flexibility is a wonderful word, Steve.
It indeed it is, yes. There's no one way to doing Rotary.
We've even got corporate clubs who are basically a corporate club of just one business. So, you know, somebody like Weetabix has a Rotary club.
I did think about going to the local Amazon depot, but I think most of them are probably
transient.
Sorry?
Transient workers, because
yeah,
they're
thank you.
temporary,
That
yes.
was the word I was looking for. But you know, we're like a great big depot in Rugby. You know, we have got sheds full of Amazon, just name it, that we're aware, a large warehouse. But as David said, I thought, oh, that'd be a brilliant idea. We'll go down and we'll go to DHL, we'll go to Amazon. I don't know, would it work?
Right.
It has worked in some places, Pauline. There are clubs that are, you know, based in just an area. In fact, I went to one of the clubs on Tuesday lunchtime and we had a speaker from RAF Molesworth. Well, RAF Molesworth is actually a USAF base, but they got 5,000 people there. And the lady that came to talk, the major, said at the end of it, we are looking to have community champions and community commanders within each of our things because we want to increase our outreach. So I gave her the challenge of starting a new Rotary club there.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, you can do these things in so many ways, and I think there's two barriers to getting a lot of things moving. One is the term club, and the other is the cost of running that club. And you take the Triumph Owners Club. I was a member of the Triumph Owners Club. I had a Triumph motorbike. It's a massive club, and they do a lot of work for charity. And you know, we're thinking so insular inside this box of restraints, to me, that there's so much more benefit can be had if we formed allegiances and moved Rotary into a situation where it facilitates and sort of engenders that good service instead of people having to join.
Interestingly, Simon, Holger Nat was saying something very similar to that over the weekend.
Yes.
And prefacing it or finishing it with saying, or if it's a good idea, go do it. Don't bother about rules and regulations because there's no such thing as the Rotary Police.
No,
Exactly.
that's right. That's right.
I'm testing that's the limits right now.
Yeah, well, that's what Holger Knack said to me on the weekend. There's no such thing as Rotary Police.
No.
Oh, well,
I could direct him to someone, and I'm mentioning no names.
Well, Steve, I'm ahead of the curve, mate, because I've
Me.
nearly been prison. I've nearly been in prison about 4 times this week.
Well, why can't we have a Rotary Club for reformed prisoners?
You can have a Rotary. You can have a group of people, not a club.
How about one for unreformed and utterly unrepentant prisoner? I think
They couldn't reform
run off with
Rotary.
the
we'll be joining that one.
They might run off with the takings.
Yeah.
It's
There is
about,
that.
it's about
I think
thinking.
as long as people are sticking to the Rotary values, the 5
Yeah.
Rotary values, then there should be no boundaries as to
Well, I
what-
mean-
how they can do it.
David, please, with all due respect, we've got people within the clubs who don't act within those bloody boundaries.
I understand that, but I
I've
mean,
had to chastise 3 this week for frankly, terrible behaviour. And what are they? They're all established Rotarians.
yeah.
I
know,
didn't know we
I-
were allowed to chastise them. I'm going to have a word with my DG and DGE because they keep stopping me.
Oh no, I just do it.
The Rotary values are being promoted again, and these are important so that we sign up to them and observe them, follow them, promote them. Rotary
Yeah.
values.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, but they aren't Rotary values, David. There is values of humanity, surely. I mean,
Yes, yeah.
act in a reasonable way. You know,
So-
these aren't, these aren't Rotary specific values. It's any sort of good human being would act
No,
that
but I
way.
mean, I think that the way that we frame it, and I think that those, the objects of Rotary and the 4-way test are really, really sort of valuable. I mean, and they may, underpin what it is to be a decent human being, but it's worth foregrounding them, I always think.
Yeah.
As being something that identifies who we are and what we do and the way that we do it. And I think that, if you want a concise definition, that they're useful in that respect.
Yeah.
Well, you probably haven't seen the new ones, Richard. They're about 16 points. So
Yeah, but they're quite valid points.
Yeah.
The key thing is that we are a service organisation.
Yes.
We are a group of people together working to the same ends, and we're supposed to have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And if we respect each other, acknowledge each other's that we are all different, we have different points of view. It doesn't make them right or wrong, but we have different points of view that people are entitled to give without retribution of whatever form that may take. Then if people accept that, and then we can move forward. Comfortable clubs giving a sense of belonging, you close that back door of leaving, don't you?
So there's too many examples of Rotarians behaving badly.
correct.
But the Rotary core values are non-negotiable. A new club, a new cause-based club, or whatever base, you can start with a clean sheet of paper. They can do it the way they want, but the core values of integrity, diversity, service, leadership, and friendship are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Agreed. Totally.
Good point, David.
I think we've been talking quite a lot about the membership and the potential opportunities that we have. I think we're all of the same mind here. I think that the next steps following this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to get the membership team leads together with maybe representatives from those clubs that are flying, I think, perhaps, and in recruitment, so that they can bring those to bear. And then look at maybe putting a strategy together that we can all take away and develop. You're smiling, Robin. What are you thinking?
Muted.
You're smiling, I think.
Well, yes,
Maybe won the lottery.
yes, I was just wondering what I'd missed, but realised that you're coming back to what I suggested before I left.
Oh yes, we just had to work our way through it to get there. That's all. No, we have done. I think. I think we are all of the same mind, and I think we
Isn't
just.
that what we,
I think the
it is
point
in
that
fact
Richard
what
and
we suggested last September, which was to get the membership and the PI leads working together first. Now, I've spoken to both my membership and PI lead, and they're sort of waiting.
Okay, all right.
It does need a mixture of people though, Robin, and you know, if they're a group of steady people who maybe don't push the boundaries too far, I think we need a balance of people in there to push those boundaries.
But it's membership.
That's
so
a
you
difficult
want-
question. Sorry?
It's membership we're talking about, so you want the membership
Yes.
teams.
Yes.
Yeah, but we may not have the right
This as well.
people in membership teams, to be fair, in membership leads. I mean,
Well,
you know,
I
we've got,
think the thing is, Simon, I think we need to start with the membership leads. They're in place to lead the membership team and also to help with helping clubs to help advise guide on potential ways of recruiting either into the clubs or creating new clubs.
What
We
about
have to give
PI?
them the starter for 10 and provide them with those clubs which are being really successful and maybe representatives from those clubs to work with them and together as a cluster to actually pull out the best bits that we can all take away.
okay.
Yeah, I think as Simon said before, Steve, and Richard said, both of them, that we can't abdicate responsibility to the point of view of just leaving them to get on with it. We've got to help with the driving of this as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not disagreeing with that because then they report back to us.
We don't, I mean, I know my lead and to be fair, they're new to the role. Quite a bullish person, so they'll certainly have something to say, but you know, I think it's a case of getting the right blend of people and people who will push the boundaries a bit and those who will pull them back and, you know, have some different ideas, off the wall ideas. There's a big balance there. And I think what we said, Steve, going back all those months to when we agreed to do this first time, to Robin's point, was that the DGEs would join those groups to start with a little bit and just how it goes.
Yes, to kick it off. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, yeah, and give them direction and let them do what they need to do. Then maybe have a review. I've talk a couple of months afterwards and see how they're getting on and or if they've got any question or they want to meet with us earlier than that, then that's fine too.
Yeah, okay.
Can I just ask a question? I've read so much stuff recently that says we must do this, this has got to be done, this has got to be done, with no suggestions of how to do it. So if somebody's going to talk about come from membership and say, well, we've got to raise the clubs, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, that's no good. We need to have a follow-up. We need to be able to say, like Chris said, they've done things gone out, like David said, we need those examples, because otherwise you're just saying, we've got to do this. And nothing turns people off more than just saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that.
Oh yeah, no, we're not telling.
If you actually sort of bring somebody like Chris and whoever the club is that he's talking about, they really do need to talk to one another to help one another,
Yes.
not just talk at each other.
No, agreed.
Okay, so can I propose that our next meeting, Chris Knight, you do a 3-4 minute presentation on why Ashby Castle is a successful Rotary Club and has increased its membership by 1/3 in the last 10 years.
I'd love to do that.
I propose, David, that we do that before the next meeting with the membership leads.
I was actually meaning with, yes, I'm sorry, you're correct. I was actually meaning to include the membership leads in the meeting, but we yes, I think it's important the membership leads are included. That was in my mind.
Yeah. But, you know, before the next meeting, that'd be great, you know, within a couple of weeks, maybe. Get the membership leads together and get them talking, yeah?
Yeah, I'll speak to ours. I'll speak to Lee, David, if you
Set
want.
a date, Steve, and just say, you know.
2 weeks, Steve.
Well, let's get the MD Peps out of the way and then do it after that, yeah?
So you've got Peps in 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's do it after the Peps.
And what the other districts, when are you doing your district assemblies?
Well, ours is not till May.
Yeah, maybe 14th.
So we could do it beginning of April, which is only a couple of weeks away, 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah.
Mine's all done by middle of April.
What,
How about
assembly?
April?
And your district assembly.
Sorry?
And your district assembly?
Don't have one.
All right.
Silence.
It's all been taken apart. It's all been taken apart online.
Well, ours is going to be online, but yeah, okay, all right. So
That's for another day.
if I sort out a couple of dates, see what the consensus is, and then we'll put something together. Yes.
Yeah.
April the 1st.
Can't
No.
do that. It's my daughter's 40th birthday party. We're taking her out to dinner.
Steve, you don't look old enough, mate.
Oh no, it's ridiculous.
I was
Ridiculous. You must have a terrible painting in the attic.
Yes. Was it legal, Steve?
Well, I'd rather not say anything about that in case it might prejudice the case against me. So yeah, so let me come up with a couple of dates. I'll share the dates and see what people think, and then we'll get the team leads to come along as well. All right.
Fantastic. I think we've achieved something tonight.
Yes.
I think it's been a lively discussion.
Can I just add, the 1st of April's on a Friday. I don't think Friday's a good night if we want to.
Neither do I.
That was a joke.
Neither do I.
If we want to recruit members, Friday night these days, younger members have the weekends with the family. We need to do something in the week.
Yes, and we go to the pub on a Friday, so can we have a different day?
So what about Wednesday evening? If we find a Wednesday, perhaps?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Can we make it
See,
towards the end of the month? I'll tell you for why. I've come across meetings and they all seem to be at the beginning of the month. There's huge clashes between district and clubs. So if you make it towards the end of a 3rd week rather than the 1st or 2nd week, because the 1st and 2nd, everybody seems to want to do, that's when my meeting is, that's when our meeting is.
Yeah.
3rd week is
Okay.
Easter.
All right. Let me sort that out. I'll come up with a couple of dates. See what people's thoughts are. I'll speak to my or our membership lead. If you do the same with yours, and then we could be rocking and rolling then.
And I would be happy, Steve, to talk to anybody about our new deconstructed district assembly.
Ooh.
That would be nice.
Anybody's interested?
Yes, it was a bit
Yes,
too late for
please.
us this year.
Well, a bit
David
too
might be
this year.
interested.
It worked last year and it's working this year.
Fantastic.
Bit like a deconstructed cheesecake, but different.
Put it in the microwave.
So that scrape the cream off the top, and then you.
You still have your groups together? You still have your different service areas meeting together?
We do, but we have them on different nights of the week.
Yeah, we've
by
done that for the last
Zoom.
2 years.
And
We
furthermore,
haven't rebadged it as deconstructed.
we invite any member,
Yeah, that's right.
any member from our district to attend those sessions.
We started that 2 years ago. I did it last year and Steve's doing it again this year. It
But
works.
it does work well.
It works very well. And I have a
Yeah.
plenary for the PEs separately.
Yeah.
So really, if any member wants to join any session on membership or environment or whatever else,
I
they
think,
quite often do so.
thinking back to this time last year, I think most districts were doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many have gone back to what they did before though?
Fair number.
Oh,
I think
Yeah.
a fair number
Yeah.
are.
anyhow,
I think you might
Okay.
get better newer people coming in to join a district team. Do you think it would be easier to get people to join? Because let's face it, there is a bit of, I don't want to join district,
well, I
But
think there's more
if
opportunity.
you
of that.
invited them to say international one, do you think they might?
Yeah, because I mean, when we did it as a single day event, as we always did, all you ever got was the chairs going to their own sessions and the PEs getting talked to by the DG. Now this invites anybody from any club
Yes,
to go to whichever session they want, barring the PEs, of course.
and you get people going to all of them.
And you get some people going to all of them
Yep. A number
because
of
they're either bored or
a number of
just-
club presidents last year were
have
at
no
every
life.
single session.
yeah, and it's cheap.
Okay.
And we don't have to buy bacon
it is.
sandwiches, and
It's
we don't have to drive anywhere.
No, that's
It's
right.
good.
I'm conscious of time.
I have to,
Gundar's
yeah.
got to go in but a moment. I'm sure most of us have really. So, so key action out of this is I'll get a couple of dates sorted. I'll speak to my membership lead or our membership lead, If you do the same, I'll send the dates out. If we agree a date, and then I'll send out the invites, and we'll take it from there. Okay. And we can then share all the contact details between our membership leads, and then I think we're rocking and rolling, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah,
All
good.
right,
Okay.
then.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
folks.
much.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Steve.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your
Bye,
dinner,
Steve.
Mukunda.
You kept it exactly in 1 hour. I'm really happy with that.
Good. Excellent. All right then.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. Bye. all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.